I'm dangerously talented. There's been a bit of controversy recently in the state of Kentucky about the state government there wanting to build a theme park with some taxpayers' money with a full-size version of Noah's Ark in it. Apparently this has educational value. So, what I'm going to do now is give them some advice on how to make sure that this particular version of Noah's Ark has educational value. Right. Firstly, it would have to be of biblical dimensions. That is 300 cubits long and 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits high. Now, a cubit, if you do not already know, is the distance between somebody's elbow to the tip of their middle finger. Now, I'm being generous, so you can use anybody's forearm. I suggest using somebody like Yao Ming or Shaquille O'Neal, or somebody who is rather long, has rather long arms, that is, so they so you can fully take advantage of those dimensions, because it's going to need to be pretty big in order to fit all the stuff that's needed. Also, it must have a window in it. You can't put any glass in it because that wouldn't have been available in biblical times. And it needs a door in it. And the door has to be big enough to fit an elephant through, and giraffes and hippopotamuses and all those other surviving megafauna. And the passageways have to fit the megafauna, at least as far as so they can get to their particular enclosures. And it has to be made entirely of wood, gopher wood. I don't know how many gophers you have to, cut down in order to get enough gopher wood, but only one family can cut down that amount of wood. And you can only use the construction materials and tools and methods available at the time. So no steel, you can't use any fiberglass in this, you can't use modern laminates. Ancient laminates, they might be okay, but not modern laminates. The sort of stuff that they used to make, like Pharaoh's sarcophaguses, that'd probably be okay. Right, so none of that. And you have to cover it in pitch on the inside and the outside, because that's what it said in the Bible. And you have to make it a seaworthy vessel. So you might have to run some sea tests in order to do that, and then get it back to Kentucky. And then you must put 2 of every unclean species and 7 of every clean species in it, and all of the food that is required for them for 40 days of rain, and then 100 days after that they spend on the ark, because it took 100 days after the rain stopped before the thing went onto the mountain in Ararat. And then you have to put enough food for all the water to drain away from the rest of the land, because the water, once the ark came to land, the water still had to drain away. So you would have to have enough food on the ark to feed all the animals and people until all the water drained from the land and all the plants had grown again. Enough to be eaten. And then the conditions on board the ark have to be also livable. So you have to put all of that, on all of the species onto the ark, and make sure they survive for 140, 150 days or so, and making sure that all of the animals survive. So it would need to have adequate ventilation system because of all the fumes from the pitch and all the excrement and other bodily wastes, and so because all the species on there create all sorts of waste and excrement. It would also have to house all the plant species that can't survive inundation for that length of time, and all the insects and that sort of thing, like termites and that sort of thing, because a lot of plant species can't survive 140 days of inundation. Like, for example, the grass out there, that couldn't survive, and those trees couldn't survive, and yes, and that tree over there, that couldn't survive either. It's if you soak a cactus in water for like a couple of hours, it'll die. Right, so, and it has to survive being inundated with 40 days worth of rain at a pressure that would literally dwarf even the most severe rainstorm that has ever been known by many orders of magnitude. And after this treatment, and throughout this treatment, it would have to hold together, not flood through the window, not rock and roll so it's going to injure the animals insides, and it can't capsize, which would flood the whole thing and make it like tumble around like a tumble dry. That would not be good for the animals, especially the giraffes and the penguins and the horses. Horses don't like to be tumbled around upside down. Once it has gone through all this massive world-soaking storm, it will have to, and has been afloat for 150 days, it will have to be deposited by the retreating floodwaters on a mountaintop. And it has to not collapse in such a way as to harm any of the animals, because there's only 2 of certain kinds of species, so therefore if one of them dies, that's it for the species. The whole thing is extinct, kaput, that's it, no more. And you will have to find a way for each of the animals to step out of the ark and make their way back to their own native ecosystems, whether they are polar bears or koalas or kiwis or llamas or whatever. They have to all get back to their home continents. And you have to explain about how certain marine species, fishes, that sort of thing, that rely on shallow water where the riverbed or the seabed is only 3 meters underwater, how they survived while being on the seabed, which is now 6 kilometers under the surface of the water. So there's no light, because there's no light so far down. So and certain other species are reliant on a very specific level of salinity, which would be completely destroyed because of the whole all the salt water and the fresh water would have to mix together, because all the water is now just one body of water because all the land is flooded. Once you have done this, then you will be able to create this monstrosity without having unbelievers laughing at you for wasting billions of dollars of taxpayers' money on a project designed to build the government out of millions of dollars while misinforming the next generation in matters of science and history. I hope you have found this helpful. I'm dangerously talented and I don't have a cool sign.